Hello and welcome back to NAS Comparison. Today I want to talk about the latest version of Disk Station Manager. It's the Synology user interface. So let's get started. Okay, so once again, Disk Station Manager, or DSM, is the operating system and user interface of Synology NAS, those units down there at the bottom of the screen. Now, Synology and the other brand QNAP pretty much dominate the entire NAS market, and one of the main ways they do that isn't hardware, but it's software. It's all of this great software that you have available to you via your NAS, and the way your data can be utilised and accessed, everything from facial recognition to one portal access to multimedia playback, and a solid user interface to show you how it's done. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a complete overview of DSM 6.2. We're going to show the user interface, and I'm going to focus on some key apps that have been part of the evolution of Disk Station Manager and give you some idea about just how versatile DSM can be. So let's go to the screen. Okay then, so first and foremost, here we have the Synology Assistant software. This is what you're going to need to get into your Synology device. You could have just typed in the IP manually, but once you've plugged into the device and used Synology Assistant, you set up your NAS, get the RAID configuration ready, and that's something for another video, a Synology setup video. What I'm going to do is go straight into the interface now, and it will open up a tab on your browser where you log in. Now, mine, unimaginatively, quite a basic login there. For those that don't know, it's admin and the word password. I know, crazy times. And this is the DSM interface. Now, once again, this is DSM 6.2. So if we go down here, open up the control panel, we have a look at Info Center. As we can see, all the different bits of information, Synology account. Now, I haven't registered an account with this device. And here we're running on the 1618, all the information we need there, and DSM 6.2, revision 23731. So, what can this device do? Well, first and foremost, if we go into the package center, when you set up your Synology for the first time, actually, do you know what? There I am, I'm going a bit ahead of myself. The first thing you need to do when you set up a Synology NAS for the first time is go into the storage manager. Now, Synology NASes with their storage manager, this is where you can build your RAIDs, build independent storage volumes and pools, as well as your SSD caching and more. So I've already set up a single drive inside there. It's a single 3 TB drive, so unfortunately there is no hard drives. But what you can do is set up a single drive as an SHR anyway. So once you introduce another drive, it will automatically add those other drives to that Synology Hybrid RAID. If you don't know about RAID and Synology Hybrid RAID, just do a quick Google. Trust me, you'll find me on page 1, and that will explain what Synology Hybrid RAID and RAID is. As you can see, the file system is also BTRFS. That's that great file system whereby there's self-healing, background data integrity checks, and it's something that's only available on 64-bit architecture and x86 class chips. So that's your Intels and your AMDs. You're not going to get any of this on an ARM chip. They will be restricted to ext4, but with this device and the ones above it, ext4 and BTRFS are available. Inside here you can create individual storage pools. Obviously you can do checks, background checks and more. This is where you can check the health of individual drives, and if you use Seagate Ironwolf drives, you actually get an even greater degree of health check and maintenance on those disks. Also, this is where you enable SSD caching by installing SSDs in individual bays, or popping in the M2D17 or M2D18 PCIe SSD upgrade card. But we can talk about that for another video. But the storage manager itself does give you a multitude of ways in which to monitor your drives, pull RAID arrays and more. So moving away from that, we can go to where I was heading before, and we can look at the package center. Now, I probably should have mentioned at the top of this video, I've intentionally disconnected the internet from this NAS for this video. The reason being is I'm trying to show just how much you can do on this device without the internet. The idea is that you want to have a closed system. If you connect the internet, you get to the package center and it will list loads of applications, such as all of these ones that I've installed. But it's very important to know that these devices not only work with internet access, but you don't need internet access, and you can have a closed system for you and all of your files, and I know that's going to appeal to a number of you. So a lot of the applications we're going to talk about today are listed here in front of us. There's some others that we've touched on the channel before, like the Plex Media Server application and surveillance, and we're not really going to focus on them too much here because we've got whole catalogues of videos dedicated to those in the past. Just go into the backlog. But in here, as you can see, you can install applications these are the packages we've installed. If we had the internet, you would have been able to see the whole list of other applications, and quite literally there are hundreds of apps. Or you can manually install an application if you have the file. Now, a number of these I've installed manually in my downloads folder. And if we go down here, here's an example of all of these files. And these are SPKs that you can download direct from Synology, but to be honest, you don't need to do any of that. You can go directly to this store if we had internet connectivity. And of course, there are beta packages, and there's even unofficial Synology app stores like the Syno community, where there are unofficial apps, homebrew apps that are being developed all the time by people for you to make the most of your NAS system and use third-party applications. So inside the NAS as well, sorry, before we get into the nitty-gritty fun stuff, it's also worth mentioning about the control panel here. The control panel is where you can pretty much control everything. You can create new users. For some of my other videos about Synology Chat and the calendar, I created multiple users here. All of them have their own login. Every single one of them has their own independent login page, file system that works, or you can create one pool of storage area that everyone can use. You can group these users together, give some of them administrators, workers, clients, guests, whatever. If we go back to the top end here at the control panel, one of the ways in which I tell a lot of people that I think Synology is a lot closer to a lot more vibing with Mac users, and QNAP vibes more with Windows and Android users, is a lot to do with the attitude towards its utilities and its user interface. Synology really does like to keep things simple. It likes to make sure that you don't get too overwhelmed. It likes to keep everything as user-friendly as possible. Everything from the setup to the execution of any application. And it's very admirable. But it's also worth mentioning that for users out there, you know, that owned Windows XP back in the day, and it had all, when you went to control panel on Windows XP, and it had all of those lovely options, and then one day some sod released Vista, and when Vista came along, you went to control panel and you had like 4 options. So people got really annoyed by the oversimplification. So people that like lots and lots of options so they can configure, they might not like this. Luckily, you can switch to advanced mode and basic mode, but even this is advanced mode that we're looking at. There's still loads of things the device can do, but it's just a question of finding them. It's a little bit of digging that the more techie savvy probably won't like. But for those that don't want to waste time, that want to set up and forget, that don't want to have an advanced learning curve, this is definitely going to be a nice setup for them. We've got everything from the task scheduler. This works with all the other applications, by the way. Notifications, performance, and in performance we can obviously check a varied degree of different things the device can do. Info Center we've already looked at there. Theme, we can change the entire layout theme of the device. So we can do that, and what we'll do is we'll create a new theme. We can download themes as well, which is quite nice. Although there's not that many, if I'm honest. There's not a vast number of them out there that are readily available. Now, I'm not going to spend all my time looking through all these settings pages. Let's face it, a lot of things you're already aware of, external drive and USB. And you can go through my other video back catalogue to see those. What you want to see are these apps. So let's focus on the apps that you're going to use the most on this device. Actually, before I even go any further, it's worth mentioning that, remember, that Synology has a load of applications for both Android and iOS readily available in terms of video, DS file, DS video, DS photo, DS music, and then more integrated ones such as Synology Moments, Synology Drive, Synology, what's the word I'm thinking of there, Chat, all the different kinds. There are loads of mobile applications. So before you buy a Synology NAS, do take the time to go to your mobile store, your iTunes or your Play Store on Android, and have a look at all the available applications. They are genuinely interesting. So, first app that probably everyone uses is FileStation. FileStation is a file manager. It's just the means of going through all your folders, and again, individual users have their own file trees, their own distinct layout, or you can create one giant pool that all your users can access with credentials that you set up. On top of that, in here you can create new folders, copy, paste, everything that you would expect from a file manager. Think of Windows Explorer or the file manager on Mac. I do apologise for not knowing off the top of my head. That will just give you the ability that you would have in those in this. It's a good app. It does everything you need it to do. Next, we can go into, let's have a quick look, where should be universal search. Unsurprisingly, is the means to search the whole device for any number of things. Everything from individual text to individual file codecs, folders, the works. And it's quite distinctive as well. Next, we're going to start off quite enterprising. We could look at all these other ones like the support center, where you can get community support and help from Synology. Security advisor checks your internal network for any exploits or possible capabilities of people to get into your device. Log center, or you can just go up there and get real-time information about the logs. And down here we have more and more, but first we're going to look at the calendar. We've already just discussed this in other videos, and I will go into more depth in another video. But we've got the calendar where you can integrate it with your Google Calendar and more. You have further along, you've got Active Backup Server, and again, all of these, I can't stress enough, will be discussed in other videos. Active Backup Server, quite a unique application from the guys at Synology. This gives you the ability to, via a one portal access point, monitor multiple Windows machines, Windows servers, Linux machines, Linux servers, Linux NAS, the works, and back them all up individually as you see fit. And it's really easy. You've got time managed backups that are not dissimilar to Snapshot background checks, the works. I cannot recommend that enough, the Active Backup, and I'm looking forward to showing you that more in a bigger video later. Active Backup covers a multitude of different platforms, Office 365 and G Suite or Google Suite. And next we can talk about Audio Station. Now, Audio Station is the music playing app. The music application is actually pretty good, and it integrates very well via DLNA output via smart speakers and more. You can create your playlist or import any number of playlists and album art and more. You can set up that media server so it can be view other media servers, or vice versa, make the device a media server to be picked up by other devices. And this gives you a greater degree of control and output on everything you're doing. With regards to what you see in the albums and everything that's on there, if we browse by folder, we can go into the folder that I created before. I probably don't have any music in that one. Let's go to General Files. And inside here, we've probably got audio files from some of the recordings we've done previously. So right now, that's going to play in the background, but unfortunately, because this screen recording doesn't let me record the audio, you're not going to hear that. Sorry to tell you that. But that's Audio Station. Great little app, and once again, there is an app available. Next, moving on, let's look at the next one. The CMS, the Content Management System, or Central Management System really, and this gives you the ability to monitor everything via external devices and internal devices. Moving on, we can look at Snapshot replication. Now, Snapshot, do check out my other videos on Snapshot technology, and it is a means of creating multiple revisions of files over time using as little space as possible. And it's good that this device does support Snapshot replication. It's becoming a very cool and trendy thing in data storage right now, and you will hear more and more about it as 2018 continues. Now, chat is one of these applications that I'm glad to make a separate video about. I'm going to touch on it very briefly, but there is a whole video coming up about that soon. And Synology Chat gives you the ability for all of the users, this is where I created all those users before, to communicate. It's a chat window where every user will have their own access point into the NAS. You've got your own login, and once you access the device with your own login, you can chat to other users that are connected to the device. There is a mobile application, once again, for Android and iOS that lets you utilize that to communicate with other people, and it means you can share files, you can create scheduled to-do lists and more via this chat interface, much like Skype, and let you communicate with other users, but keep everything, all the history, the files, everything internal and safe. And once again, remember, no internet access on this device, so people can talk. And you can keep all of that contained internally. The chat admin console obviously lets you configure some of those details. Cloud Sync is the ability to synchronize your NAS with a third-party cloud provider like one of the many listed. Once again, whole video detail in this I released about 2.5 months ago. This gives you the ability to synchronize maybe with your Google Drive or Dropbox, and therefore either synchronize the data on your third-party cloud with your NAS, or synchronize the NAS with your cloud. Either way, it's the ability to have a lovely off-site backup for one or the other. We remove that. We'll carry on down here. Next, we can talk about iTunes Server. I'm not even going to open iTunes Server, but it's fairly self-evident what it is. It's the ability to create an iTunes Server from the music on this device and other media, and let it get picked up via other devices that are compatible with iTunes Server over DLNA and in some cases internet activity. Now, Moment, once again, this is one of those applications I'm genuinely looking forward to making a dedicated video on. I made this a little while ago about Moment, the application. I'm going to have a follow-up video coming out very, very soon. But Moment is the photo specialized application. It can cover videos, but no one really cares too much about that. You can chuck years of photos into this device. These are photos that I've made on behalf of the channel and ones that I've done privately, chucked into the NAS, and then the NAS sequences them and then uses AI support to not only tag the photos as you'd expect from the likes of Facebook and a lot of your mobile phone devices, but because it's all internal, it doesn't need the internet to do it. So say this chap here, this is a colleague of mine called Nick, call him Nick, and from this point on, every single photo that guy is in, it will find. There's Nick, and there's all the photos of Nick. On top of that, we can move back, and it also does themes. So say we want to look up the word food. Boom, there's all the pictures of food. Now, I cannot stress this enough. I did not tag these manually. It did it all itself. If you go into subjects, you can see a lot of the parameters that it uses. Again, they're not all perfect. Look at, what was my example before? Farm. That's just a patch in my garden. That's not a farm. And in some cases, it selected hot dogs when those are clearly pigs in blankets. So obviously, it's not perfect, but it's still a great application for sequencing. And once again, there's the cats. Can't have an internet video without cats. That's basically the law. There's more to Moments, but do check out my other video on that coming soon. Next, Drive and Drive Admin Console. Long story short, Drive is the equivalent of Google Drive or Dropbox. It is the application that gives, and is available for mobile as well, it is a one port access point to all of your files. So unlike File Manager that we saw earlier on, that's very basic and you needs to use Audio Station, Music Station, Video Station, Photo Station, all that lot to play files, Drive plays everything and opens everything internally. Synology has its own Office application too, so it can open Word documents, CSVs, Excel spreadsheets, PDFs and more. So for example, here's some CSV files I downloaded as examples from Microsoft. And boom, there we are, it's opening up in its own Excel spreadsheet package. If we want to edit it, you just import into Synology Office, because right now it's opening a shadow file of the original file, and now we can edit these files as we see fit and save as you would want to. And again, the options are very intuitive, exactly what you're used to from the past. And again, we move back, we can look at photos and video perhaps. So here's some more photos. Opens up within the application. If we want to look at videos, we'll go to General Files. We'll select, so go for a Synology here, 1817. There's an audio file, and the file will play in the background. I know you can't hear that. Alternatively, we have another photo, or we can go straight for a video file. Let's find ourselves a video, shall we? Go for a later one of the more recent ones. Open up a video. And there's our video file. Again, in my other video covering Synology Drive, I will be comparing against Google Drive too. So again, Synology Drive, great access point, but once again, remember, without the internet. Of course, if you enable the internet, all good, but you don't need the internet in order to take advantage of this device and take advantage of these abilities. So once again, all the files, all the data lives on the NAS and it's protected in that means. So do bear that in mind, and great for business if you need a centralized platform to view, edit and work with your colleagues, collaborate with people too. Carrying on, we can look at some of the other applications. Download Station gives you the ability to create a standalone download server where you can download FTP, HTTP, NZB and BT level files and more, as well as your RSS feeds for your podcasts and more. So you can create a download server, create task lists or subscribe to existing lists, and then you've got a standalone surveillance server. Now, another thing just to add, just in the background, everything we've discussed so far can be run simultaneously. All of these apps can be run at the same time by multiple users. The only limitation is the hardware on the NAS you're using. Now, Mail Plus is the ability to set up multiple email accounts that are registered to the Synology device, as well as an email manager to deal with third-party email providers such as Yahoo, Google, Hotmail, Outlook, etc. They're all can be used inside this device. Media server, as it says on the tin, turns the NAS into a multimedia server to be picked up by smart TVs, laptops, Sonos, both sound systems and more. Note station creates to-do list notes that can be shared with the mobile application too. Photo station, again, much like the others, it's not as good as Synology Moment, but it still has a lot of those features and functionality and the ability to still browse all of those photos, and a neat little feature called Map, which geotags all of your, if you've got geotags on the folders, it creates maps. And I know Android and iPhones can do this, but you have to use the cloud and the internet to do it. This is all internal. It should also be mentioned that the Moments application does sequence by location too. So Photo Station, again, you can create photo playlists. You can't really edit photos on this, but you can edit this device via the network over 10 GB or 1 GB for smaller files, and utilize the file system on the NAS, iSCSI, whatever, and then edit those files remotely. Again, we will be talking more about these applications later. And we're going to close things on a few last apps. Podcast Generator, I'm looking forward to playing with, to be honest. It's a much lesser known file, and I will be showing you how to host your own podcast. And by host, I do mean record to and broadcast from and distribute from your NAS using apps like this for both Synology and QNAP. Sugar CRM is the popular free customer management system, or otherwise customer relation management, or whatever a CRM stands for, I can never remember, included with this device. So if you've got lots of accounts for customers and you've got all that kind of stuff, you can import all of that over to the NAS. So not only have you got chat for all your team to talk and communicate and collaborate and exchange files, and not only have you got the calendar that you can integrate with all of these, and not only do you have an email server, so all the emails are coming into the device, so all communication is recorded and maintained for legal or due diligence. But on top of that, you've got a content system there and customer relations manager that lets you keep notes, catch up, meet deadlines, to basically maximize your business. Now, one of the applications that isn't installed on here right now, I believe, is the surveillance application. Now, with the surveillance application, what that means is you can connect multiple IP cameras and then view all of those cameras on the NAS. It will record to the NAS, and you can get email alerts, SMS alerts. You can use cameras that support night vision and motion sensor and all that lark from the likes of Edimax, Reolink, Hikvision, and more. So that's another way in which a NAS can centralize your business, but moreover centralize your data. Just remember that you need to make sure that data doesn't just live on your NAS. It has to be backed up somewhere else, and NAS isn't the only form of backup, and don't make that the case. USB copy gives you the ability to copy the content of your NAS to a USB drive semi-autonomously, or if you have a NAS that has a one-touch copy button, you can go through the settings on here and just set up what you want to happen when an external drive gets connected. So when you do that, the content of the NAS will back up onto the USB or vice versa, and you can set it up that it's almost completely automatic and you never have to deal with the DSM if all you want to do is back up USB. Video Station, once again, just like the others, it's a dedicated video playback application, and it does give you the ability to go through all of your files and view media appropriately. And again, you can go through individual folders, you can add new folders. Most people do like to use Plex, let's face it, they do, but still, nevertheless, you can still go through here and assign and index folders for the device to search through. You can go via the default ones, or just keep heading back, create a new folder, and add it to the device, and therefore give you the ability to just browse. There we go for test, wallet, and then it will sequence in the background. And while that does that, we'll let that do its thing. We can see that the CPU went up a little bit there and it's gone back down, and the Video Station application is now browsing and indexing those files. We're not going to wait for the thing to do that, but needless to say, Video Station, although it's good as a multimedia playback, I still think you're going to have difficulty beating Plex. And the Plex Media Server application runs great on this, though it won't deal with 4K very well indeed. But the Plex Media Server application, again, a third-party app, nice and simple. You sign up to Plex, or if you've already got a Plex account, log into Plex, assign all of the directories, TV shows, movies, etc. to the media on the NAS, and there you go, your Plex media server is pretty much good to go. You just need to go through the settings and just tweak things with regard to transcoding and access. I do recommend a Plex Pass if you want to use transcoding. Finally, I'm not going to go into it, but a virtual machine manager gives you the ability to create multiple virtual machines on your NAS device. To create a virtual machine, you have to assign certain hardware, like maybe one or two of the cores. So, for example, if we create a virtual machine, I'm not going to create one fully because that will take up more of this video than I've already done. If we go for an other, we could look at the ability of creating, next time I'm creating an Android VM on this device, something unusual, because you've seen a lot of Windows VMs, or maybe I'll just do both on this device and let you see simultaneously what it's like to have those virtual machines. But that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. DSM 6.2 is easily the best version of Synology's DiskStation Manager that I've seen yet. And it still goes to show the amount of faith Synology have in their first-party apps. Because again, Synology versus QNAP, for me, used to be a story of software versus hardware. But Synology's hardware has caught up substantially. And their software is very hard to beat. And if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. But otherwise, if you want to see any of these apps with a bigger focus, do let me know. But a lot of these will be focused on individual videos in the coming weeks. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Buy your NAS from span.com. Catch up with NAS at nascompares.com. And send me a message via Twitter if you've got a question at Robbie on the Tube. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe there at the bottom of the screen. Otherwise, I'm going to keep bombarding you with terrible computer puns like this. What did the spider do to the computer? Made a website. What did the computer do at lunchtime? It had a bite. Why did the computer keep sneezing? It had a virus. If you don't subscribe, I'm going to keep telling you terrible jokes like that one. So press those bloody buttons.